Some of you guys wanted to log in. Is there a specific play site that you guys would like to go in and kind of work in together? I know some of you guys are like, let me in there. I just want to touch on this kind of stuff. I want to play a little bit. Is there a specific play site? Kate, do you have a recommendation?
How about we start with the very beginning?
Okay.
Or do you mean an actual, which one should we log into? Like Bob Marley or?
Yeah, just whatever kind of.
How about Winnie the Pooh? Is that still up and running?
I don't know. We'll have to check it out. Alrighty, so I'm going to go just like this. I'm going to look up a corporation key. How many of you guys like the new corporation key?
It's very, very fun.
So the reason that we actually had to do this, and this is important for me to say, okay, and you might be like, okay, whatever, okay. You know how we were kind of talking about all these different layers here? Well, Adilas, through time, we started back in 2001, and for a custom write-up system, like I was saying, for a dealership industry. At that point, we had just about 5 or 6 locations all spread out through Colorado, and we were trying to do some different pieces of the puzzle. As it grew, we got more and more, and then we got things in Texas, and then we got things in Oklahoma, and then we got things more in Colorado. And so eventually we had multiple little pieces. Imagine like small little planets that were kind of like out there. And after a while, it was like, oh my goodness, we can't keep doing this because each one became so specific, we couldn't do it. We actually had to pull back and put everything under one roof and build with permissions and settings so that we could kind of like grow and be able to handle pools and dealerships and grows and, you know, retail environments or whatever it might be. So we actually had to kind of pull back. As we did that, we've had to grow through different servers and different servers. The reason that we introduced this thing called the Corp Key ID is basically we need to know which worlds you're playing at now because it's no longer all on one server and then we're just like, oh, I know who you are, cool, I'll send you there. It's like, oh, you're on data 1, oh, you're on data 0, oh, you're on data 15, you're on, like, we have to actually send you to physical different boxes now, okay? So that's why that kind of came into play. Just so you guys are like, are you guys trying to complicate my life? Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to actually look up, I'm going to do Bob Marley. And his, looks like the alias for them is called Cannabis, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right back to the login page and I'm going to just type in Cannabis and I'm going to hit continue to log in, okay? And now I'm just going to go ahead and log in. So once you come in, depending on your page, you have a number of different what we call custom interfaces, okay? So it's important to know this because you can virtually set up your own. Everything has these standard features which are kind of called our header bars and also what are called our footer bars. This particular one right here actually came into a dispensary homepage, which basically has a couple of simple buttons and then a patient queue right here so as they come in, you can start things off right on that automatically. Let me just show you just a couple different other interfaces just briefly so you can kind of get a flavor of it. If I hit on Chooser, it's on top or bottom, doesn't make a bit of difference. Go to Chooser. By default, we give you at least 3 different options, okay? You have a thing called the interactive map. So if you wanted to go right to invoices, you just physically click on invoices. We will use the map a lot during training because it helps show flow, okay? Boom. You just click on invoices. You come right to your invoice homepage, kind of showing your different pieces of the puzzle. Just so that you guys kind of know how things are organized, I'm going to go right here. When you come to your homepage, you will have a basic hub. From there, we allow you to jump into little sub-homepages. For instance, vendor homepage, bank homepage, deposit homepage. Like you can jump into these little sub-homepages. From there, you have special little features and what we call reports or options or search capability. And then your physical data exists way out here in the orbits. Once again, imagine that this is like a virtual little world and this is a core shot. This is how it's just kind of organized. You have the main hub, and then you jump into sub-homepages, and then you kind of get into your data. So this one right here, I'm going to go back to the Chooser, and I'm going to show you a different one. A lot of people like this one if they are doing touchscreen type interfaces. This is called the My Favorites, and it's basically a series of buttons. It's all organized according to section over here. Balance sheet, check, patients or customers, deposits, etc., etc. And then it shows you different options that you can go right from there. And some people like this if they're on a phone or a touchscreen type environment because it's very friendly. It's not as small, okay? But it basically has tons and tons of buttons. If you don't have things turned on, they will be grayed out, so you can kind of see what you have and don't have, okay? I'm going to go back to the chooser and show you one other interface. This is called the classic interface, and this one has more of a drop-down type option. This is how the permissions are actually structured, okay? The reason that this is called the classic, just about a little bit of history here, is when we first started, how many of you guys have ever heard of a thing called role-based permissions? You guys ever heard of that? It's kind of a technical term. Okay, imagine something like this. Sales, marketing, accounting, admin, okay? That's very generic categories. Those are called roles, okay? Well, what happens inside of Adilas is if we want all this major flexibility, we can't just say sales, admin, accounting. Like, it's basically, oh, you can play here, but I don't want you to play here. It has to get really intricate as far as the permissions. So we started with a role-based permission thing, and it broke because it just didn't have the flexibility. So we went to a full-on create the user and then assign them whatever permissions they need, and then they'll play according to that, okay? So that's kind of where this went. The reason that this is called the classic is as you add and subtract permissions, it actually modifies your interface on the fly, okay? So what I'm going to do is watch this right here. See this little link right here that says password and profile? If I go to it, it allows me to kind of change my stuff and go to my personal settings. It's right here in my list. If I actually, on this particular interface, if I go here and I say, let's go to the payees and permissions, and I'm actually going to go to Bob Marley for just a second. Here's Bob. So I'm virtually in his user group, in his item, and now I'm going to go down to the different little pieces. I'm going to go to the system basics, and I'm going to come find the one that says password and profile. Click. I'm going to uncheck it. Then I'm going to go to the very, very bottom of the page, and I'm going to submit his record. Now if I go back to that classic home page, what I wanted to show you is that password and profiles is no longer in his list of links. Okay? This page completely is generated off of the permissions as far as what happens. Also, when you get into a system, you start getting into like multiple things playing together. Okay? And so what happens there is basically this particular one will build and build and build. Some of the other interfaces are very simple. Okay? You have just a certain number of buttons, or you have just a certain number of core concepts, or you have something that's like this, which is basically, boom, just a super, super interface. Hey, we got Fred Flintstone, he's coming in, we're gonna log him in and kind of let him go, okay? What I'd like to do, and Kate, if you're okay with this, I'm going to go ahead and turn that permission back on, and then I'm gonna let you come in, and I'd like you guys to get a little flavor from Kate, and I think it'll kind of help sort of wake us up and kind of like see how somebody uses it, and I'll let you run through some kind of scenarios, okay? So basically, I better go turn that permission back on just so that in case they wanted to, they could actually change that permission. So I go back here, I find my Bob Marley. I'm now in his physical employee or user record, and then I'm going to say I need to go to System Basics. I come down, I find the password and profile, select it, bottom of the page, and edit. There are over 100 different permissions that we can turn on. What it allows is for people, say for instance you have Johnny and he's kind of like, you were kind of worried about Johnny? You give him 3 or 4 permissions, you say run as hard as you can, okay? You virtually created a rubber room for Johnny, okay? And then you might have Sally and she's like the superstar and you're like, Sally, you know, maybe she has 75 or so of those things, okay? Like what it does is it allows the thing to flex instead of just a single role-based, oh, you're an accountant, or oh, you're sales. It's too generic. So that's kind of why we do permissions. Okay, cool. So I'm technically logged in here. I'm going to turn the time over to Kate. And Kate, I'd just like you to kind of like, you give us a little intro/demo type thing, okay? Awesome.
We'll definitely do that.
You guys will have fun here. And if you have questions, please holler. Like, mine was the hard part. I had to kind of introduce a few kind of core concepts, but you'll hear us talking about that over and over again, okay? We have groups, and they create relationships, and they do different things, but now you're going to really see how to work it, okay? Awesome. Kate.
So like Brandon said, Adilas pretty much does it all, but so we'll kind of start at the very, very beginning and the basics of all of it. So Adilas is wonderful because no matter what, if you start at the top and work your way down, you're bound to figure out what it is you're trying to do, regardless of what screen you're in. So as any person would, when they first come in, they would obviously clock in, clock out, and this is something that you would have your employees do. You can assign departments. This is something that you choose, and everything is customizable. So if you just don't like the term bud tender, you want sales associate, put it in there however you guys want, and that's the beauty of it, so that you can really manipulate it the way you'd like. So it's all very cut and dry. Start at the top, work your way down, do what you need to do. I always recommend putting notes every time you do anything within Adilas. If this is creating an invoice, if this is expensing something, 2 weeks from now, face it, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, so I don't think that you guys are going to remember what you were doing when you were creating an invoice or ordering something, specifically if you're doing it multiple times during the week. So this little guy over here, this is your little home button. Whenever you're lost, if you're ever in a weird place and you don't know where you are, click on your home button. It's going to bring you home. This is really nice. This is really quick. Gets you around easily. Control, I don't know if you guys really know this. This is more just like a for you guys. Control, or if you were using a Mac command, clicking anything, you can then open new tabs. Oh, maybe not on yours.
It's opening a new tab.
I don't know.
Oh, you're probably right.
Oh, there we go. I wasn't holding control. If you hold it down, you can then keep this open so that you can then start working in another page. If there is something you need to copy, paste information from one place to another, anything like that. That's just a nice little quick get around. Another fun tool in Adilas is there's a bunch of quick search keys, if you will. So if you need to do an advanced search really fast, you need to figure out how many of what item from what day you need. ADB is a nice little quick way to get to your advanced search screen. ADB advanced, very nice and easy. And what it does is it takes you to a place that you can actually then really put as much or as little information as you want, depending on how thorough you want your search to be. You can say, okay, well, I need to know what's in my grow, and if it's bud, and how many grams. And then you can then search, and it will automatically show you what you have in your grow, how much. The quantity will be usually, here we go, here's some quantity. And this is something that are called line items, and line items will always pop up underneath your main. The main information is going to be whatever is going to direct you along the page, depending on what it is. And this will always tell you where you are in case you feel lost or it all looks too similar. Always look at the top and reference where you're at.
That's very important. Like if you ever call tech support, the first thing we ask you, what page are you on? Okay, and they're like, I have no clue. Go up by your logo. Because it's a new title, and if you use your back button, the cool thing about that is it actually, that thing gets stored, so anytime you go to a new page, that piece actually gets stored. It's kind of part of your history as far as which page you're on. It's kind of part of the browser.
Oh yeah, the backing up. So let's create a patient together really quick so I can show you something cool about backing up. So if we want to create a patient, we just want to do it fast and easy. We type in new. The same as with item. This is the same with a purchase order. This is the same with an expense receipt. New. Anytime you just want to open a new thing. And so now it will ask us here, it's a filter type and a patient status. This is to see if they're already pre-existing. So what we would do is we'd simply type in the last name. And this is really important if you're in the MMJ industry because people will tell you they've never been there a million times for freebies. So we'll add new patient because there was no Brian there. And as we get here, we are now, there's keys, certain things that you have to have in order to proceed. And sometimes you get 6, 7 people walk in at the same time regardless of what industry you're in. And you have to just get them in the system quick and get going so that you can get them in, get them out. So one thing you have to have is the patient type. So this can either be client, patient, member, person off the street. So we'll select that. We have to have a first and last name. So whether they're giving you an ID or they're just physically telling you, you need to let them know. So we'll do make a little name. All right, so now that we have a who and a what, we now put a where. And that is simply so that we can then proceed forward. So now I'm going to add my patient. This is as little information as I need just to get going. Once I've added them, I can then put them in the queue. Now if they came in with a friend and I wanted to just add 2 people quickly, I simply cannot just go back and start editing again, because if I do this, what happens is if I hit add patient again, it's not editing this patient that I brought in. It's now created 2 of my Kathleen. Bam. And it's duplicate entries. So you have to be really mindful when you go back in anything. If you're creating an expense, if you're creating a PO, if you go back after you've just created it, it will create it a second time.
So that's just a warning on the add mode, okay? If you're in edit mode, you can back up. But if you're in add mode, the browser has no clue that you actually did the action, okay? It's kind of just the way the browsers work, okay?
You have to go back to the home page to start a
Nope. You would just
not
click
the home,
on,
but to the back to the
patient page.
once you've created the submit, so like create it, look for the edit link. You can edit to your heart's content. You can edit it 50 million times if you had to, but you don't want to recreate them because that does create duplicate entries.
Yeah.
And so the way that you would then add, so we've added her to the queue, she's in the back, she's being taken care of, I have a chance to breathe, I simply go into her page, which looks like this, and this is called a patient log. So here's your main information, which is going to get you anywhere you need to be, where you can then throw them in the queue, which the queue is virtual waiting room, where the little people are hanging out, these guys up here. And then all their information right here, which you can then add more, whether it's customizing what they like, what they enjoy, if they have an order. But what we'll do is we'll hit edit patient, and now I can edit whatever I want without worrying about recreating anything. And then of course you'll probably want all of this jazz. And as much information is always great, and I'm sure I don't need to tell you guys because you're all business people that cell phones and emails are always just money, birth dates as well. Legally, we're required to have the MMR, and Adilas is plug and play. So this cute little scanner right here, if you guys have ever seen them at like Office Depot, you can actually get those to scan your red cards, and it literally plugs into your USB, and Adilas automatically scans it. This is really great for plant tags too and packaging tags, because we're now having to do all of that via MITs. And there's actually been sections created within Adilas for that specifically.
Got a question.
Yeah.
So this whole system is going to populate MIDs for us?
Yes and no. So what happens is this generates CSV files. So what it does is it pools all of our information within Adilas. It says, these are your patients, these are your sales for today, and it is then in this little file. You can open it in Excel, whatever, save it. But what happens is you end up giving it into MITs, and MITs absorbs it and says, okay, you sold this many out of this package, and that's what's associated with it. And I can actually show you guys an example of that as well. I can show you one of my sales. I can report it really quick via MITs if that's something that you guys are interested in seeing.
Yeah, you're jumping ahead. I'm just curious.
No, you're totally fine, and that's the cool thing, and that's what I love about Adilas. And I was actually talking with MITs, and they said that Adilas is one of the only companies that's actually working directly with them to get this all ironed out, all the kinks. I've been on the phone for hours with them, and also Steve. So it is still a work in progress, but it's there. I've been reporting my sales for the last week, and the only issues are on the MIT side. So Adilas has your back, and that these CSV files are in fact working. So I will totally show you one of those. How about that?
Before we move too far on, one of the girls online just wanted to make the comment, while that is a caution about the ad page, they wanted to say as well, it's also a real benefit if you're adding a lot of information. You can just change your information, add, and you can just really use it fast to add instead of going to the home page, add a new person. So it can work both ways, but
Totally, and
be
especially
cautionary.
if someone has the same address, go back, change the names.
yeah.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Yes, I agree. It can be very beneficial, especially when you're creating purchase orders or creating plants in the garden, because you're going to do 20 cuts of the same strain. So it's nice to be able to just go and change whatever your tag number is and just keep moving forward from there. Do you
do this in Adilas?
Yes. Hold on, I'll show you guys really quick.
Where's the way for our tags?
Oh, I know, it's disgusting.
Yeah, I'm so far behind that I have no freaking clue that it's like.
Well, don't feel stressed, because I know that MITS has, and also the state is granting us a lot of easy way because it is so new and they honestly aren't up and running, sadly, as well, because MITS is still a work in progress. I don't know if you guys did the class and how they pretty much were like, well, this is what we project it to be, but this is how we want it to be. So you're not actually learning anything yet.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's why I really bothered with the one class, because it was like, what's the point? It's all going to change next week.
Exactly. Totally. Yeah, well, I personally made all the mistakes within there because they, again, didn't really give us any direction. So I just pressed a bunch of buttons, and so I'll tell you guys what not to do. So in Adilas, what's really cool, let's just create a mock purchase order. So we're going to type in our quick search new, which is our fun little button. It's going to bring us here, and it's going to say, who's a vendor? I don't know any vendors in here.
There's a printable, were you just going to go vendor all or something like that?
Yeah,
or?
exactly, and find someone. So all, if I don't know who the hell I'm working with, fire me. But I can just type in all, and it will literally list all of my items, all of my vendors, all of whatever in my quick search that I've selected. So we're going to do 7-Eleven because that's nice and easy. So 7-Eleven is what we type. Now this field only allows you to type in 4, so if I keep typing, nothing happens. So the less you type into a search field, the more information you're going to get. The more you type into the search field, the less information you're going to get. So we're going to type in 7-Eleven, which is pretty specific. We're going to create our PO. And like any time, we're going to select the type, the location where we're doing it. We'll just say it's the dispensary. We're going to put in our notes because, again, we're not going to remember in a few months what we were putting in the dispensary. Let's just say this is edibles. We spent $340. The invoice number was something crazy, and the items are physically in my possession. So what I have done is I've just worked from the top all the way down. I've filled in the information that I thought that I could. So now, the external reference number, this is going to be where you put your package tag, where everything comes in a package. I'm sure most of you have kind of heard about packages, how they're only supposed to be strain specific up to a pound. Now for MIPS, this has to be only up to a pound worth of cannabis. So if you were to bring in, say, a bunch of butters at 1,500 milligrams, you can only have up to 56,000 milligrams within that package. So we'll scan with our little scanner, our package tag that came in, and we can actually just use one of my ones since we just got up. So these are what the package tags look like. They are awful. They have a little piece that you peel off and you put on your order and one piece that you can keep for yourself. So these are just simply for the moving products to and from. And what's really cool is, again, you can literally just scan and it's in there. So now when you scan things like this, or if you were to scan like the MMR number when you're entering a patient, it does automatically close it out. So you just have to be mindful that you're just on the next page. You're not, it didn't break anything. It's all good. Your tag's still associated with it.
So just real quick, a barcode scanner is called a human interface device, okay? You'll notice how she cleared the field out, then she put her cursor so the cursor was blinking in that field. And then as soon as she went, bleep, the barcode, what it does is it reads whatever it's supposed to read, it translates it into English, and then it basically hits the enter key. So that's why that was the last thing she did. So you prep everything else, and then you stick your barcode scanner in the field that you want it, and then you scan it. Because as soon as you do that, it's going to submit that page. So make sure everything else is prepped, okay? But it's good. It saves you a ton of steps. You just got to kind of prep it a little bit.
Totally.
Per field, right? So if you scan the patient card, then you can proceed, and then you scan the...
Correct. So it'll submit. Every single page that you do, it actually will submit something.
Those are two separate actions.
Correct. So that no problems there.
In my case, I use invoice numbers to purchase things to sell to dispensaries. So when we get them, I use the purchase order number. But for some reason, I don't have, I created a form for our store that's an outside vendor PO. And I just put OBPO so we know it's an outside vendor. Then I scan it into the system so we have a copy of it in there. But my question on POs is, when you're creating, like we sell a lot of butane, and we sell master cases, cans, or 12 packs, whatever, But the issue I have is we get them sometimes from different vendors. Sometimes we get them from the West Coast, and we're running low and we're not going to get our shipment in time. We'll go locally and buy like 10 master cases. But is there a way to put them all as one item instead of having all these different vendors and numbers for each item?
Yes, totally.
That's
So
where I'm
That's
having
what
a
we need is a
problem.
bucket.
let me tell you. So we are the largest edible selection in Denver. So we literally carry every freaking company, and it is a nightmare for me, the inventory manager. So when we get some things from Mountain High Consulting, Mountain High Distributing, what we do is in our PO, we just create one to us, and it's called a special live PO. So what we would do is we would just use us as the vendor.
Hang on just 1 second. Just so you know, they are saying, oh my goodness, I have vendor-specific items and vendor-specific items, and it's turning into a headache.
Because I was doing a mixed vendor, I started doing a mixed vendor PO, but they're still not linking together, so I don't know what.
It's okay. Kate will show you how to do this, but basically what you got to do is almost think generic items, okay? So instead of vendor-specific, we still have to worry about the payables for the accounting piece of it. We have to still know who we're going to pay, but we're going to create one bucket, that's going to be our parts or item. We're going to stick from 7-Eleven, from here, like say Snickers bars or something simple like that. You don't care if you get it from Costco, Sam's, Walmart, Safeway, it doesn't make a bit of difference, okay? But you might have to pay Safeway and this.
Yeah.
So that's okay. She'll show you how to do this. You create one bucket called Snickers. You push it all in there. That's why she's heading with a vendor of herself. She's basically going to create a generic bucket. And then we're going to figure out the payables section as far as who we owe and that. So watch what she's going to do right here, okay?
So we're
If you have questions,
7-Eleven.
call her.
We now are creating a PO to ourselves. We're going to do it like normal, the basic live in the location that we're building it. And what we're going to do is we're going to put in our items for sale. And now we'll put in the amount is nothing because these are our items. Our reference is whatever today's date is, and apparently we're in the future. And we also have received the items. So now, when you create the items, we're going to say we're creating butane. So we didn't have it in the system before under ourselves, so we're going to add the item. We haven't received any quantities because we're actually just creating the item right now. We just want this in our system as something that we can then grab out of. So we've titled it butane. We're going to throw it in the category of definitely not edibles. Let's see. Surgical supplies. We're, who knows, doing what with that. So butane of all sorts. And now, reference number you don't really need to put. If you want to have a barcode associated with it that you need to create just for quick scanning, if you need to be moving things around, you can type in auto and it will automatically put a barcode number in there for you. Now, this is not an MMJ item, but if it was an MMJ item, this little box right here is our friend, the plant package RFID tag. So, because things are coming in under specific tag numbers, so you get Blue Dream as your number 1, you have your Durban Poison as your number 2, you have to associate these with your individual items. So what you would do is you would just say, my Blue Dream came in as number 9. Blam. There's my Blue Dream. Now that item has a tag number associated with it. But that was for them, but for you guys, now this item's created within the system. So it's created. Now later on you order from a different company that is called, let's find a different company.
Okay, so just to clarify real quick, she did a PO to herself and prepped the system. I need a container. I need a bucket for my butane, okay? She created a generic container right now. Now the next time she goes to order it, she'll be able to say, oh, I got it from, you know, whatever vendor, and I'm going to put it into this generic bucket. But you got to kind of create the bucket first, if that makes sense, if you're going to go in a generic way.
And you can do it all on one PO. So that last PO that I was on, I can literally create my butane, create my lighters, create my exit bags, create my whatever the things that I personally need. They're now under my name. So now I go to Victoria Vendor Test and I say, please, can I please buy 20 things of butane for you? They invoice me. I receive the invoice. I create my purchase order. And instead of doing a basic live, I'm going to do a special live, and this is a mixed vendor. So what this allows me to do is, yes, I'm purchasing from these people, Victoria, on this day in this location, this butane for this amount, and the external reference, whatever their invoice is, and yes, it's in our possession. Add PO. So now we've created a special live PO. And what we can do, once it loads, well, there we go, is now I have this that I didn't have before. And what this does is it allows me to access all of my vendors, not just myself, not just Victoria, but everybody. So I go into me, and I then select the thing that I have created under my name, and that's the butane. And so we received 12 at $4. I don't know how much I put, but. So now this is my line item down here underneath my main information, and it shows me that I have purchased 12 butanes at this amount. They billed me wrong, and it's now complete. So you only have the one item. You can use it as much as you want. If I were to go and then create another PO with another person, I can still get that again just by it being a special live. Let's see. Oh, you gotta have stuff and things.
So the little error message that she just said, basically it'll show you an error message if it doesn't like what you're doing. It tries to help you walk through it. It's trying to hold your hand a little bit. So.
All right, so then again, I can go in here, even though I'm under GHS, I can still go into my 7-Eleven and pull from there. So that's a special live. So that's the difference between the two different POs. And there's multiple. The grow production order, this is something that you'd be using more so than anything, because for you putting in a request. It's not tied to inventory. It's not going to go against your plant count, anything like that. What you're doing as a grow production is you're basically saying, I want these things. I need these things. This is happening. It's in the process. So when I do my grow production order, what I'm doing is basically that's where I make all of my plants, anything like that.
Okay, hang on just one second. Did we answer your question, or would you like us to go through that and kind of see where it's coming on for what we call that is called a generic inventory, okay? It's kind of a generic. And so, for instance, I would recommend that you guys use the Connect as the main vendor, okay? And you, just like Kate did, you create a thing called butane, okay? And then what you do is instead of buying it from all these different places, East Coast, West Coast, local, whatever, you put them as the main vendor, and then you say, I want it to go into my bucket that is the generic, the Connect butane type thing. And then like all the pieces that you already have that are out there, and you're like, oh my goodness, I've got like 50 different things. There are tools called a find and replace, and you could actually go in and you could be like, okay, cool, I finally set up my own little my bucket. Now I want to take everything that used to be 7-Eleven butane, and I want it to now be part of the Connect butane. And everything that was part of the Costco butane, it needs to be part of the Connect butane. We actually have a thing called find and replace. It is a special permission, but it allows you to merge those things back together. They don't automatically merge. You have to use that find and replace, kind of like, here's my master, here's what my sub was, help me.
That's where you pick up a list of the vendors.
Correct.
You would select yourselves off of the list of the vendors, because that's where you'd have all of your items underneath
But
those.
when you initially create the PO, you put the vendor you got from, and then when you go to put it in, it asks you again, pick a vendor from the list.
Yep.
So what happens
Exactly.
is it's almost kind of like a decision, okay? And this deals with inventory. What normally happens if you're doing a basic live PO, you say vendor, item, and I have this perfect relationship, okay? It's what we call vendor specific. As soon as you say, I might buy this from other people, you have to physically make a decision. So instead of tying it as tight as you can right off the bat, you go like this. I'm going to buy this from 50 different other people, okay? Let's get it in here so I have my bucket, my generic bucket, and now I'm going to buy from you, buy from you, buy from you, buy from you, but I'm going to put it all into my generic bucket. So it's kind of prep work. It's some prep work, but then once you got it, it'll help you run.
Oh, yeah,
So,
because we have so many vendors and POs, and oh my God, every time we're buying, you have 10 vendors for the same price.
Yep.
And it's like, which one do you use?
And then we run out of the supply from that vendor, so people that come in have tried working with us, they don't know where to take it from, so we're getting negative balances in our inventory, which is driving me insane. So I have to keep adjusting stuff and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
making me crazy.
Can you do one where you start from the very beginning and not when it's already in the system, because I can't see it, I'm like,
I can't see it either, that's why I'm like all lost.
yeah.
If
Okay.
you guys want to come up here, I'll move my stuff so you can see a little bit better.
We
You don't have to, but.
I know, but you
Yeah, but
know,
now we
all
can do that too, we're not logged in, so you know what I mean? If we can follow you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing it.
Definitely.
Sorry.
Thank you for piping up, okay? We are here to help you. Kate's doing great. She's like, you can tell she has tons of information, but we'd love to kind of get you guys going in the direction we're going, okay?
We need to start from the very.
We'll slow way down, and what we're going to do is we'll actually kind of, what I like to do if we're going to do a process, we'll pull up a Word document, and we'll basically say, okay, what is our goal? We're going to create this, and create this, and create this. So we'll kind of map it out virtually, and then we'll go do it step by step so you can see it. Because once you learn it, like, she can do it blindfolded, okay? But you guys are like, help, help.
I think from my point, I don't know about anybody else, but coming in to see it, coming from where it starts in the warehouse, okay, it's the trim, and to trimming the plant, just to weigh the plant, I mean, start from step one to go.
Perfect.
down the line. So you can
Happily.
see how it's moving through, you know, I don't, is that anybody else?
Yeah. that's
You can
all
close
those
that
too.
side.
So I can close it.
Yeah, you can close that one.
Click on the webcam's drop-down button, and then
You
just say
just hide
hide.
it.
Hide webcams.
Perfect, sorry.
Okay.
So everyone else.
So you walk into your row, you do your cut,
So
your roots.
they're not even logged in quite yet. Let's actually
Yeah,
go clear back. Okay. So go ahead and just click log out for a sec.
Yeah, do we, you said it was cannabis?
Cannabis is your corporation key alias.
Do you guys want to log into Bob Marley and walk through this so you don't mess up anything in your systems?
Yeah. Nope, the corp key ID, this is called an alias, okay? So basically, this was just added a couple days ago, but your normal corp key ID is the first 3 letters of your business name, a dash, and then a numeric value.
We don't want to get into our business thing, right?
No. If you log in just like she's doing right here, you will be in what we call a play site, okay? This is where we practice and play, and feel free to push buttons and try things and that kind of stuff, okay? So you're going to want to do this, just cannabis, all lowercase.
And feel free to write this information down as well so you can get into it at your own home or workplace of business so that you can play on your own as well. So the corporation key, cannabis.
Awesome, thank you. We'll just kind of slow it down, but like,
No, you're
your
totally-
information is awesome, but these guys are like, I'm not quite ready to fly that fast yet.
Well, what's the username and password again?
Okay, so she was just kind of waiting for everybody to get there. Once you submit that, we are going to go under Bob Marley,
No space.
no space, all lowercase, and your password is 1234. And it's going to take you right into a play site.